Teacher saw little boy wearing same clothes 47 days. What 103 Hells Angels did next? Maplewood Elementary School, casting warm light across the classroom. Ms. Harper, a kind and experienced teacher, was preparing for the day. She arranged her books, sharpened her pencils, and made sure each student's desk was tidy. She loved her job, especially seeing the curiosity and excitement in the children's eyes. But that morning, as the students started filing into the classroom, Ms. Harper noticed something that immediately caught her attention. A young boy named Liam walked in, carrying his small backpack. At first, there was nothing unusual about him. He was quiet, shy, and polite like many other children in the school. But when Ms. Harper looked more closely, she noticed something strange. Liam was wearing the same clothes he had worn the previous day, and the day before that. And over the past several weeks, his outfit never seemed to change. His shirt was faded and had small holes near the seams. His pants were worn with frayed edges at the bottom, and his shoes had seen better days. They were scuffed and almost falling apart. At first, Ms. Harper thought it might just be his favorite outfit, something he liked wearing every day. Some children do have favorite clothes, she thought, and perhaps he felt most comfortable in them. But as the days passed, her concern grew. Liam continued to come to school in the same set of clothes day after day. She began to wonder if there was something more behind it, something that she needed to notice and understand. Ms. Harper had been teaching for over 15 years, and she had learned to read small signs that children often showed when they were struggling. She noticed that Liam rarely played with other kids during recess. He would sit quietly by himself on the bench, watching the others play with a soft, distant smile. He never asked for help, and he never complained. Even when the weather turned cold, he still wore the same thin jacket, which was clearly not enough to keep him warm. Her curiosity and concern turned into quiet worry. One afternoon, she asked Liam gently, "Hey, Liam, do you like this jacket? It looks really worn. Do you want to borrow one of mine for recess?" Liam looked up at her with his soft brown eyes. He gave a small smile and shook his head. "No, thank you," he whispered, almost as if he didn't want to cause any trouble. Ms. Harper realized that this wasn't just about clothes. There was something deeper happening in Liam's life. She decided to speak with the school counselor, Mr. Daniels, to see if he had noticed anything unusual. When she described what she had observed, Mr. Daniels nodded thoughtfully. "I think you're right, Ms. Harper," he said. "There might be something going on at home that we don't know about. Let's see if we can find out more without making Liam feel uncomfortable." Over the next few days, Ms. Harper tried to get to know Liam better. She asked him about his favorite books, his hobbies, and what he liked to do after school. He would answer politely but briefly, never giving too much information. Ms. Harper noticed that he often looked tired, as if he had a lot on his mind. She wondered what his life was like outside the classroom, and her heart ached thinking about a small child carrying so much worry at such a young age. One evening, after a particularly long day at school, Ms. Harper stayed behind to organize her lesson plans. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam. The thought of him wearing the same clothes for so long, possibly without proper meals or care, weighed heavily on her. She decided to visit his home discreetly, just to make sure he was safe. The next afternoon, after school, she walked down the quiet streets of Maplewood until she reached Liam's small apartment building. From the outside, it looked worn but lived in, with peeling paint and a few cracks in the walls. She knocked softly on the door, unsure of how the family would react. A tired-looking man opened it. It was Liam's father. He was polite but reserved. Ms. Harper introduced herself and explained that she was concerned about Liam without accusing or blaming. The father sighed and invited her in. Ms. Harper was able to see the small apartment where Liam lived. It was cramped, with little space for the boy to play or study. There was only one small bedroom, shared by Liam and his younger sister. The furniture was old, and there were signs of financial struggle everywhere. She realized that the boy's worn-out clothes were just a small part of a much bigger problem. She learned that both of Liam's parents worked multiple jobs to keep the family afloat. Sometimes there wasn't enough money for new clothes, proper meals, or even basic supplies for school. Liam's father explained quietly that they did their best, but it was not easy. The family had faced challenges for a long time, and every day was a struggle to make ends meet. Ms. Harper felt a mix of emotions. She was saddened by the hardship, but she also admired the family's determination to keep going despite the difficulties. She wanted to help, but she knew she couldn't do it alone. She promised the father that she would look for ways to support Liam without embarrassing him or making him feel different from his classmates. The next day, she returned to the classroom with renewed determination. She paid special attention to Liam, making sure he felt seen and valued. She encouraged him during lessons, praised his efforts, and gently included him in group activities. She also discreetly spoke to other teachers, explaining Liam's situation and asking for any advice or assistance. Slowly, she began to notice small changes. Liam seemed to respond positively to the extra care and attention. He smiled a little more often and participated in class more confidently. Ms. Harper realized that even small gestures of kindness could make a big difference in a child's life. Despite these efforts, she knew that Liam's basic needs, food, clothes, and other necessities, were still a challenge. She began researching local charities and community groups that help children in need. She thought about ways to provide support without making Liam feel embarrassed or singled out. One day, she overheard a conversation among her colleagues about unexpected sources of help in the community. One of them mentioned a group that many people didn't expect to be involved in charity work, the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Ms. Harper was intrigued. She had always heard about the club's tough reputation, but her colleague explained that they often helped people quietly, especially children in need. The idea seemed unusual, almost unbelievable, but Ms. Harper was desperate to find help for Liam. She decided to reach out, carefully explaining Liam's situation and emphasizing the urgency. She didn't know what to expect, but she hoped that someone would step in to provide support. In the meantime, she continued to care for Liam in the classroom. She made sure he had extra supplies, snacks when needed, and always a kind word or a smile. She also encouraged other students to include him in games and activities, helping him feel part of the community despite his challenges. Throughout this time, Harper kept a careful balance. She wanted to help Liam, but she also wanted to respect his privacy and dignity. She knew that for a child living with hardship, feeling normal and accepted was just as important as receiving material support. Little did she know, her small efforts and quiet concern were about to lead to something incredible. The story of Liam, the boy who wore the same clothes for 47 days, was about to reach people who would change his life in ways she could never have imagined. Even though it was just the beginning, Ms. Harper felt hope. She had learned that paying attention, caring deeply, and taking small steps could make a real difference. And she believed that Liam deserved a life full of opportunities, love, and support. She didn't know how it would happen, but she was determined to see it through. And so, the quiet town of Maplewood continued its daily routine, unaware that soon, the life of one small boy would be touched by people from a world completely different from theirs. It all started with a teacher noticing something unusual, caring enough to pay attention, and refusing to ignore a child in need. Ms. Harper could not stop thinking about Liam. Every time she looked at him in the classroom, her heart ached a little. She could see the quiet strength in his eyes, but she also saw the loneliness that came from going through so much at such a young age. She knew that while she could support him emotionally and academically at school, she couldn't provide everything he needed on her own. He needed more than encouragement and attention. He needed real help to feel safe, comfortable, and cared for. Determined to make a difference, Ms. Harper began researching ways to provide assistance. She looked into local charities, food banks, and community programs. She asked colleagues and neighbors for suggestions. Some places offered small grants or donated clothes, but they often required long applications or waiting lists. Time was something Liam did not have, Ms. Harper thought. She wanted immediate help for him. One afternoon, while having a quiet conversation with another teacher, she mentioned Liam's situation. Her colleague, Mr. Lewis, who had lived in Maplewood for many years, nodded knowingly. "You know, there are people in this town who aren't well known for helping, but they do it quietly," he said. Ms. Harper tilted her head, curious. "What do you mean?" she asked. Mr. Lewis spoke softly, almost as if he was telling a secret. "There's a chapter of the Hells Angels here. People think of them as dangerous bikers, but some of them care deeply about kids and the community. They don't seek attention, but when they get involved, they make a real difference." At first, Ms. Harper felt a mix of surprise and skepticism. She had heard stories about the Hells Angels, rough-looking men, tattoos, leather jackets, motorcycles. How could they help a little boy like Liam? But the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. Sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. She realized that appearances could be deceiving. Goodness and kindness were not always visible on the surface. After a few days of contemplation, Ms. Harper decided to take a chance. She drafted a careful letter, explaining Liam's situation in simple, honest words. She described his courage, his struggles, and the fact that he had been wearing the same clothes for 47 days. She avoided any judgment or accusations, focusing only on the child's needs and her hope that someone could step in to help. She found the contact for the local Hells Angels chapter and sent the letter, her hands trembling slightly. She felt a mix of hope and nervousness. Would they even respond? Would they take her seriously? She did not know, but she reminded herself that doing nothing was not an option. Liam deserved a chance at a better day, and she was willing to take this unusual step for him. To her surprise, within a few days, Ms. Harper received a reply. A senior member of the Hells Angels, a man named Jack, wrote back. He asked her to meet him in person to discuss Liam's situation. Ms. Harper was cautious but agreed. She understood the importance of speaking directly and explaining things clearly. The meeting was set at a small community center, neutral and safe. When Ms. Harper arrived, she was greeted by a group of men dressed in leather jackets, some with tattoos, others looking more ordinary than she expected. But the moment she began talking about Liam, she noticed something remarkable. Their expressions softened. They listened carefully, asked questions, and showed genuine concern. Jack, the senior member, explained that their chapter often helped children in need, quietly and without seeking recognition. They had programs to provide clothes, school supplies, and even home repairs for families struggling financially. When he heard about Liam, he felt it was something they could and should help with immediately. Ms. Harper was amazed. She had expected hesitation or indifference, but instead, she found willingness and kindness. She explained that Liam had been wearing the same clothes for over a month, that he often went without proper meals, and that his home was small and in need of repair. She emphasized that he was a quiet, brave child and that he deserved support without feeling embarrassed or singled out. Jack nodded. "We can help," he said simply. "We'll make sure it's done respectfully so Liam doesn't feel uncomfortable. Children like him deserve to feel safe and happy. We know that appearance doesn't always tell the story, but action does." Over the next few days, Ms. Harper and the Hells Angels chapter coordinated their plans. They discussed what items were needed most: clothes, shoes, school supplies, food, and small repairs for Liam's home. They also wanted to make sure the help was discreet and organized so that Liam wouldn't feel embarrassed in front of his classmates or neighbors. Meanwhile, Ms. Harper continued her daily routine at school. She noticed that Liam seemed to sense something was happening. He seemed a little more hopeful, though he didn't fully understand what it meant. She continued giving him attention, encouraging him in his studies, and including him in activities with his peers. She saw small changes. He smiled more often, asked questions during lessons, and even participated in group discussions. But she knew the real change was yet to come. When the day of action arrived, Ms. Harper was both nervous and excited. She had been told that more than 100 members of the Hells Angels would come to help, bringing supplies and assistance. It was an unusual sight for anyone to imagine, but she knew it would be life-changing for Liam. The bikers arrived early in the morning, riding in groups, trucks loaded with donations, tools, and supplies. They coordinated with precision, dividing responsibilities. Some unloaded clothes, neatly folding them and placing them into organized piles. Others prepared school supplies and backpacks. A small team brought in repair materials for the apartment. Every detail was carefully planned to make the day smooth and efficient. When Liam first saw the bikers arriving, he froze. He had never seen such a large group of people come together, not to intimidate but to help. His eyes widened as he watched men and women, all serious yet kind, carrying boxes and bags, organizing them carefully and speaking with each other politely. Ms. Harper knelt beside him and whispered, "They're here to help you, Liam. They care about you." Liam looked uncertain but curious. The bikers approached him gently, introducing themselves with smiles and calm voices. They handed him a backpack filled with new clothes, shoes, and school supplies. At first, he was shy and hesitant to accept the gifts, unsure if he deserved such attention. But one member knelt down and said softly, "You deserve this. Everyone deserves to feel safe and cared for. Slowly, Liam's hesitation faded. He opened the backpack and looked inside. His face lit up with joy and surprise. He had never received anything like this before. The clothes were bright, new, and clean. The shoes fit perfectly. The notebooks, pencils, and books were all neatly arranged, ready for school. He couldn't believe that so many people had come together just for him. The bikers also offered to help around his home. Some fixed broken doors, patched holes in the walls, and cleaned the small apartment. Others organized toys and games for Liam and his younger sister. They created a space where the children could feel comfortable, safe, and happy. Ms. Harper watched in awe, realizing that this act of kindness went far beyond clothes or supplies. It was about showing Liam that he mattered, that he was valued, and that people cared about him. As the day went on, Liam's laughter filled the apartment. He played games with the bikers, showing them his small collection of toys and telling stories about his day at school. Ms. Harper noticed how much he had changed in just a few hours. His confidence grew, his smiles became brighter, and his small gestures showed that he felt seen and appreciated. The Hells Angels, too, seemed transformed by the experience. They were usually associated with a tough exterior, but here they were gentle, patient, and kind. They worked together as a team, focused on helping one small boy. They didn't seek recognition or praise. They were motivated purely by the desire to make a difference. By the end of the day, the apartment was transformed. Liam had new clothes, new shoes, and school supplies. His home had been repaired in small but meaningful ways. He had played, laughed, and felt the warmth of genuine care. Ms. Harper realized that the combined effort of a teacher and an unexpected group of community helpers could change a child's life in a single day. For Liam, the day was unforgettable. He went to bed that night feeling safe, valued, and loved. He had experienced something extraordinary, the kindness of people who, on the surface, seemed very different from anyone he had ever met, but who had hearts full of compassion. Harper left that day with a full heart. She had witnessed something incredible, a community coming together in an unexpected way, showing that help can come from the most surprising sources. She knew that Liam's life was changed forever, not just by the gifts or repairs, but by the message that he mattered, that someone cared deeply for him. And while the Hells Angels would quietly return to their lives, their actions left a lasting impact. Liam had learned that even in difficult circumstances, there are people who will step up, stand by you, and show that kindness can exist in all forms. And Ms. Harper had learned that sometimes, courage and compassion come from the most unexpected places, and that a small act of reaching out can create a ripple of hope that changes lives. The morning of the big day arrived, and the air in Maplewood felt charged with anticipation, though. Only a few knew exactly why. Ms. Harper had spent the previous night lying awake, thinking about how to make everything go smoothly for Liam. She knew this day would change his life, but she also knew it had to be handled with care. She wanted Liam to feel safe, loved, and valued, not overwhelmed or embarrassed. When she arrived at school, she noticed Liam walking quietly toward the building. He was still wearing his worn-out clothes, though today his expression carried a small hint of curiosity. He didn't know what awaited him, and Ms. Harper gently squeezed his shoulder and whispered, "Something special is going to happen today. Just trust me." Liam nodded slowly, his eyes wide with uncertainty and a little excitement. Outside the school, the sound of motorcycles echoed through the quiet streets. A group of 103 Hells Angels members had gathered, their bikes gleaming under the morning sun. Trucks and vans carried boxes of new clothes, shoes, school supplies, and tools for repairing Liam's small home. The bikers moved with surprising organization and precision. Every member seemed to know exactly what to do, creating an atmosphere that was both powerful and calm at the same time. When Liam first saw the bikers and their vehicles, he froze in place. It was a sight unlike anything he had ever seen. Men and women, many with tattoos and leather jackets, stood by trucks and motorcycles, unloading boxes and arranging items carefully. But there was no threat in their demeanor, only purpose and quiet determination. Liam felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. He couldn't imagine why such a large group of people would come all this way just for him. Ms. Harper knelt beside him and whispered softly, "They're here to help you, Liam. They care about you and they want to make sure you have everything you need." Liam blinked, still hesitant. The thought that so many people cared about him seemed almost impossible to believe. One of the bikers, a tall man named Jack who had first contacted Ms. Harper, approached Liam with a gentle smile. He knelt down to be at eye level with the boy and handed him a bright, new backpack. "This is for you," Jack said softly. "It has everything you need for school and some extras too. You deserve this." Liam's small fingers trembled as he took the backpack. Inside, he found new clothes, shoes, notebooks, pencils, and even a small toy car. He had never owned so many things all at once. His eyes widened, and for a moment he was speechless. Tears welled up, but he quickly blinked them away. He didn't know how to express the feelings swirling inside him: shock, happiness, and a sense of being truly seen for the first time in a long while. The bikers didn't stop there. Some carefully carried boxes of food and essentials for Liam's family. Others brought tools and repair materials to fix parts of the apartment that were broken or worn down. They worked in teams, some unloading supplies from the trucks while others carefully carried items into the home. Every movement was purposeful, showing respect and care for the child and his family. Liam's younger sister, Emily, watched in awe from the doorway. She had never seen such a sight, so many people coming together for her brother. She ran to hug Liam, and he finally allowed himself a small, shy smile. The presence of the bikers was overwhelming at first, but as he saw their kindness, his anxiety began to fade. Ms. Harper stayed close, guiding Liam and explaining what was happening. "They're your helpers," she told him. "They want to make things better for you. You don't have to be afraid." Liam began to relax, though he still felt a little shy. He watched as the bikers worked with precision, some fixing broken furniture, others repairing doors and windows, and a few painting worn walls. The apartment slowly transformed before his eyes. The day was filled with small but meaningful gestures. One biker showed Liam how to organize his new school supplies neatly in the backpack. Another gently measured his feet to make sure the new shoes fit perfectly. Others played games with him and Emily, teaching them simple tricks with toy cars and board games. Liam laughed for the first time in weeks, the sound bright and clear, echoing through the small apartment. Ms. Harper noticed a change in Liam as the day went on. His posture grew taller, his voice became more confident, and his eyes sparkled with curiosity. He asked questions about the bikers' motorcycles, about their work, and even about why they had come to help him. Each question was met with patience and kindness. The bikers answered honestly, without exaggeration or show, treating Liam as if he were just as important as anyone else in the world. Neighbors started to peek through their windows, curious about the unusual gathering. Many whispered among themselves, surprised to see the Hells Angels helping a small family. Some had misconceptions about the bikers, but their actions spoke louder than rumors. Here they were not intimidating or dangerous. They were gentle, kind, and dedicated to helping a child in need. The neighbors began to understand that goodness can exist in unexpected places, and appearances are often deceiving. As the day progressed, Liam began to take part in the activities. He helped sort clothes, choosing outfits that fit him and his sister, and even helped arrange toys in their new play area. Each task, though small, made him feel useful, capable, and important. The act of helping, even in small ways, gave him a sense of pride and ownership over his new environment. By midday, the apartment was almost unrecognizable. The walls had been patched and painted, the floors were clean, and the small living room had been arranged in a way that was both cozy and functional. Liam's room now had a proper bed, fresh sheets, and space to play and study comfortably. The changes were physical, but more importantly, they were emotional. Liam felt safe, loved, and seen. The bikers didn't just focus on material support. They talked to Liam about kindness, respect, and the importance of believing in oneself. They told stories of helping others in the community and how even small actions could make a big difference. Liam listened intently, absorbing the lessons without feeling pressured or judged. He realized that the world could be a place of care and generosity, even when life at home was challenging. Ms. Harper watched quietly from the side, overwhelmed with gratitude and emotion. She had spent weeks worrying about Liam, and now she saw the transformation happening right before her eyes. The boy who had worn the same clothes for 47 days was smiling, laughing, and full of energy. He interacted confidently with the bikers and his sister, showing curiosity and joy. One moment stood out in particular. Liam had been shyly exploring a stack of new books when Jack approached him. He handed Liam a notebook and said, "This is for you to write anything you want, stories, thoughts, or even your dreams. You deserve to share them with the world." Liam's eyes sparkled as he took the notebook, and for the first time he felt that his thoughts, his ideas, and his dreams mattered. As the sun began to set, the bikers started to pack up. They had completed their mission, leaving behind not just new clothes, repaired furniture, and school supplies, but also a sense of hope and security that Liam had never experienced before. The apartment was filled with warmth, laughter, and a sense of belonging that only genuine care can create. Before leaving, Jack knelt down once more and spoke to Liam. "Remember, it's okay to ask for help when you need it. There are people in the world who care about you, even if it doesn't always seem like it. You are important and your life matters." Liam nodded, tears forming in his eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude and relief rather than sadness. Ms. Harper stayed behind a little longer to ensure that Liam and his sister were comfortable and that their parents understood what had been done. She explained that the bikers had come because they wanted to help, not for recognition or thanks. The family was overwhelmed by the generosity and kindness shown to them. They realized that even strangers could make a profound difference in their lives. That night, Liam went to bed feeling safe, loved, and valued. He hugged his new stuffed toy, placed his new books and supplies neatly on his desk, and thought about the kindness he had experienced that day. For the first time in a long while, he felt hope. Hope that life could improve, hope that people could care deeply, and hope that he could dream about a brighter future. Ms. Harper walked home that evening, exhausted but filled with gratitude. She had witnessed something extraordinary: the power of community, the impact of kindness, and the way that people from unexpected places could change a child's life forever. She thought about how easily someone could have overlooked Liam's struggles, but instead, a group of bikers and one concerned teacher came together to create something remarkable. For Liam, the day was life-changing. It wasn't just the new clothes, shoes, or school supplies. It was the message behind those gifts. The message that he mattered, that people cared about him, and that even in difficult circumstances, life could bring kindness, joy, and hope. The Hells Angels quietly returned to their lives, leaving behind a transformed home and a boy who had learned an invaluable lesson. That help can come from the most unexpected places, that kindness exists even where you least expect it, and that a single act of caring can change a life forever. And in the quiet town of Maplewood, the story of the boy who wore the same clothes for 47 days began to spread, not just as a tale of hardship, but as a story of hope, community, and the extraordinary power of people coming together to make a difference. After that unforgettable day, life in Liam's small apartment began to change slowly but surely. The boy who had worn the same clothes for 47 days was no longer the quiet, withdrawn child who hesitated to join in at school. He had discovered something new, a world of care, support, and kindness that he had never fully known before. Each day, he woke up feeling a little more confident, a little more hopeful, and a little more certain that he could face the challenges in his life. Ms. Harper continued to watch him closely at school. She noticed the subtle changes first. Liam started raising his hand in class, answering questions with more confidence, and even smiling at his classmates more often. He began participating in group activities, no longer sitting alone during recess. His friends noticed the shift, and some of them approached him with curiosity, asking about the new clothes, the school supplies, and the toys. Liam, with a shy but proud smile, explained that he had received help from some very kind people who cared about him. At home, the transformation was just as remarkable. The apartment, which had once felt cramped, cold, and worn down, now had a warmth and brightness that reflected the care and effort put into it. The walls were painted in cheerful colors, the broken doors were repaired, and the small living room was organized in a way that allowed the children to play and study comfortably. Liam and his sister Emily had new beds, clean sheets, and personal space to enjoy. Even small details, like a new rug in the living room and toys neatly arranged on shelves, made a huge difference in their daily lives. Liam's parents were deeply grateful for the support, and they began to feel a sense of relief they hadn't experienced in years. While they continued to work hard to provide for the family, the assistance they received allowed them to breathe a little easier. They no longer had to worry as much about basic needs like clothing, school supplies, and household repairs. They also realized the importance of emotional support. Seeing Liam smile, laugh, and interact confidently with others reminded them that even small gestures of care could have a profound impact on a child's well-being. The Hells Angels, though they returned to their usual routines, continued to keep a quiet eye on Liam and other children they had helped in the community. They occasionally checked in, bringing small gifts, school supplies, or even just spending time with the kids, sharing stories and teaching lessons about kindness, respect, and perseverance. Liam began to look forward to these visits, not just for the items or repairs, but for the connection, encouragement, and sense of belonging they offered. Ms. Harper saw how the support and kindness from the bikers had a ripple effect on Liam's character. He became more empathetic, understanding the importance of helping others even in small ways. He started helping his younger sister with her homework, sharing his toys, and even assisting his parents with small chores around the house. The boy who had once been quiet and reserved was growing into someone capable of compassion, confidence, and leadership, qualities that had been hidden, waiting for the right circumstances to emerge. In school, Liam's improvement was noticeable not only to Ms. Harper but also to his classmates, the principal, and the other teachers. He started to excel in his studies, showing a keen interest in reading and writing. Ms. Harper encouraged him to write stories in his new notebook, the one given to him by Jack. She suggested he could even share these stories with the class if he felt comfortable. Liam hesitated at first, but soon he began to write about his life, his experiences, and the lessons he had learned. Writing became a form of expression, allowing him to process his emotions, reflect on his journey, and even dream about the future. The community around Maplewood began to take notice as well. Neighbors who had once underestimated the power of kindness were now inspired by the story of Liam and the Hells Angels. People started volunteering, donating clothes, and offering their help to families in need. Ms. Harper became a quiet leader in the community, showing others that small actions, when combined with care and intention, could make an enormous difference. Liam himself learned a powerful lesson about trust and human connection. He realized that despite the difficulties he had faced at home, there were people who genuinely cared about his well-being. This understanding gave him the courage to seek help when he needed it and to open up to others about his feelings and challenges. It was a lesson that would stay with him for the rest of his life, that it is okay to accept help, and that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. The Hells Angels' involvement in Liam's life also taught him something unexpected about people. While many in the town had preconceived notions about the bikers, seeing them as intimidating or even dangerous, Liam learned that appearances are often misleading. Kindness, empathy, and generosity are not always visible on the surface. True character is revealed through actions, and Liam saw firsthand how a group of people, judged by society for their tough exterior, could display immense compassion and love. As weeks turned into months, Liam's life continued to improve. He maintained his focus in school, formed strong friendships, and discovered new interests and talents. His confidence in social situations grew, and he became a source of inspiration for other children in the neighborhood. Teachers and parents alike admired his resilience, courage, and the way he embraced opportunities that had once seemed out of reach. The story of Liam and the Hells Angels became a symbol of hope in Maplewood. Local newspapers and community centers shared the story, not as a tale of danger or fear, but as a story of humanity, compassion, and the power of coming together to help those in need. It inspired other children, families, and adults to take action, reminding everyone that even in difficult circumstances, there is always hope, and there are always people willing to make a difference. For Ms. Harper, the journey was deeply rewarding. She had started by noticing something small, a boy wearing the same clothes every day. But that small observation led to a cascade of positive change. She realized the importance of paying attention, of caring deeply, and of taking action even when the situation seemed daunting. Her belief in the potential for goodness in others had been strengthened, and she carried that lesson forward in her teaching and in her life. Liam, now more confident and happy than ever, began to dream about the future. He wrote stories about his life, about the kindness he had received, and about the lessons he had learned. He dreamed of becoming someone who could help others in turn, understanding that the world could be made better by small but meaningful acts of love and support. He knew that one day he could be a source of hope for someone else, just as the Hells Angels and Ms. Harper had been for him. His parents, too, felt a renewed sense of purpose. They continued to work hard, but they also learned to lean on the support of their community. They understood that accepting help does not make someone weak, it makes them stronger. They encouraged Liam to pursue his dreams, to believe in himself, and to never underestimate the power of kindness and compassion. The neighborhood itself began to change subtly. Inspired by the story, families and neighbors started looking out for one another. People became more willing to lend a helping hand, share resources, and offer support when someone was struggling. Liam's story had become more than just his own. It was a lesson for the entire community. Even years later, the memory of that day stayed with Liam. He never forgot the sight of 103 bikers arriving with kindness in their hearts, the gentle words of encouragement, and the tangible care that transformed his home and his life. It remained a beacon of hope, a reminder that no matter how difficult life may seem, there is always someone willing to help, to support, and to show compassion. Liam carried those lessons with him into adulthood. He became someone who valued human connection, empathy, and the importance of helping others. He never judged people based on appearances, remembering the kindness shown to him by those society had misunderstood. He also kept in touch with Ms. Harper, the teacher who had noticed his struggles and never given up on him, always grateful for her patience, care, and dedication. The story of Liam and the Hells Angels ultimately taught everyone involved a powerful truth, that hope, love, and compassion can come from the most unexpected sources. That people are often more than what they seem, and that taking action, even when it feels impossible, can change lives forever. And so, the boy who had once worn the same clothes for 47 days became a symbol of resilience, courage, and the extraordinary impact of human kindness. He learned that life could be filled with challenges, but it could also be filled with hope, support, and opportunities to grow. The kindness he received became the foundation for the person he would grow into, a person who understood the power of empathy, the importance of community, and the lasting effect of a single act of love.